You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz on 90.7 FM, live streaming at ksqd.org. This is Talk of the Bay. I'm Christine Barrington. And in the second half of our show, we are going to talk about a special offering that is happening this weekend on May 20th and 21st. It will be the launch of the first annual San Lorenzo Second, I stand corrected. I thought it was the first. Okay. The second annual, my guests are showing me the brochure. The second annual San Lorenzo Valley Art Tour featuring dozens of artists from a multitude of genres, welcoming guests into their studios. You can experience painters, fiber artists, ceramicists, woodworkers, photographer, glass artists, and more. And many of the artists will be demonstrating their processes. And best of all, it's free. Can't beat that. So here to tell us all about it are artists Mick Singer and Raph Strudley. Mickey, right?
Yeah, either way.
Mickey. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Talk of the Bay.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So are you considered the founders of this?
We are two of the four.
Two of the four. Yeah. So who are the founders of the
other,
San Lorenzo Valley Art Tour?
The other two folks that have helped to organize it are Janet Silverglate and Eileen Murray.
Okay.
And they're instrumental in the success of putting this together.
Wonderful. So describe to our listeners, how did this get dreamt up? How did it come about? Give us all the details that you might know. Because we'll say that Janet was supposed to come in, and she's not well, as you said. Right. And so you've got to tell us all about it.
Well, we're all Open Studios artists, and Open Studios has been an institution in Santa Cruz for 25, 30 years. And a few years ago, 10, 12 years ago, the artists out in Bonnie Doon sort of started their own little Open Studios tour because it was hard to get people out over into Bonnie Doon because there's 300 odd artists, and getting people to go all the way out there was a little tough. So we had sort of the four of us independently of each other. Janet and I had talked, and Raph and I had talked, and Janet and Eileen had talked, and we were all going, we should do that in San Lorenzo Valley. And we, sort of kicked it around for a couple of years, and eventually we went, okay, we're going to do it, we're going to organize, and we got it all set, and we were ready to launch in 2020, and COVID hit. So we were all set and ready to go, and just had to tell the artists, well, let's hold on and see what happens. And so last year, we finally got around to, okay, we're far enough downstream, let's try it again. And we did it last year. We had 30-odd artists like we did this year, and it was great. It's sort of like a mini Open Studios where you don't have to worry about traveling the whole county.
Right.
You can just sort of go up and down Highway 9, and we've got 14 venues this year, a lot of them with multiple artists, and so it's just kind of an easy day or weekend to see a lot of art.
And all the venues are really close together, so it's having very little time to travel from one place to another. Yeah. The bulk of the 14 venues, 13 of them are either in Felton or Ben Lomond, and one of them is in Boulder Creek.
That is very tantalizing, because the Open Studios in October, right, is also amazing. You see the signs everywhere, right. And it's almost like so much of a good thing. It's hard to take it all in. So it's kind of a gift to have it broken up into little areas.
We do the same thing, except our signs aren't green. Our signs are fluorescent pink.
Fluorescent.
So
pink.
You can't miss them. They just pop.
They'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about what people might experience. That I was reading, like I said, in the intro, there's fiber artists, ceramicists.
Each one of the venues will, feature different artists, and many of them will be demonstrating exactly what their art is. Myself, I'm a wood turner, so I have a home shop, and I actually do some turning to show people the process and let them realize that it's not done rather quickly. It's a time-consuming labor of love, so to speak. And it's very satisfying, and people are always intrigued by seeing the process of how art is created.
Right. And for the uninitiated, what do you make as a wood turner?
Wood turning is using a lathe, making various wooden vessels. The brochure that I have, if you look down in the bottom right corner there,
Wow.
there are 3 bowls made out of New Zealand swamp kauri. And, that's a story in and of itself, is how that wood came about. But everybody, all the artists use their different materials and show their process.
Wow, these are extraordinary. They look like flower vases almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
But water and wood generally don't mix.
Right. I was that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
What I want to say is like, in case you can't see this, listeners, but there's this absolutely gorgeous, an actual printed brochure. It's wonderful. Folds out. You've got a map showing where all the studios are with beautiful photos. These are also on your website.
Right.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find you all?
They can find a list of all the artists and website links to all the artists that have them at our website, slvarttour.org. That's slvarttour.org. Mm-hmm. And there's an interactive map that as you pull it up on your phone, it links to Google and it'll tell you how to get to whichever studio you want to get to.
Wow, this is really juicy. So, Mickey, what kind of artist are you?
I do furniture making and photography.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
I'm sort of bipolar or schizophrenic, I guess it would be. So,
Join the club.
Yeah.
Wow, a furniture maker. What kind of furniture do you make?
Yeah, mostly residential furniture. I've been doing that. I've been in open studios. This will be my 20th year for furniture and wood. And then probably my 5th year with photography. And so, it's the furniture is like my regular job. And then the photography is for fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, mostly it's, residential furniture, chairs, tables, cabinets, that sort of thing.
So do you make the furniture and people come buy it, or is it all bespoke?
It's all bespoke. I mean,
Wow.
There are a few pieces that I'll have, a few small tables that I'll have for sale, and some like charcuterie boards and things like that that people can buy. But most of it is commissioned. And
His work is outstanding.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, so if somebody needed like a new stereo console,
I do a lot of those.
I'm getting pretty excited. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice because I can do it at the house, and so we just open up our house, and I have several pieces, and I've redone the closet system in our bedroom and the bathrooms, and so they get to just wander through the house and see my work, and then go out onto the deck where I have all the photography, laid out, and they can buy matted prints and stuff like that.
Wow, it's just going to be a super rich couple of days. So,
yeah, and then I'm also going to have a ceramicist at my house.
Okay.
And she makes Sue Hertzberg. She makes great little lawn animals and things like that. So yeah, it'll be fun to have her up there.
Well, since you're talking about some of the artists, let's keep going because as you're naming details, right, it gets me hopped up. So I'm hoping it gets our listeners hopped up. And who else are you looking forward to having the world experience, our world experience?
Well, one place that people probably should put on their list would be Viscosity Studio up in Boulder Creek. They're the farthest north this year. Christy and Graham, and they make great glass, and they'll be demonstrating their glass work. So that's always really fun. And then we've got several places where there are 4 or 5 artists, painters at Eileen's, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's 4 or 5 painters there.
In one spot?
Yeah, in one spot.
Does that happen in open studios too?
More and more these days.
Okay, yeah, because that really helps, like when it's all grouped together.
Yeah, and there are some people, we're trying to, I'm actually on the organizing committee for open studios too, and we're trying to make it easier for people who aren't full-time artists, but really are at a level that they can start showing it, but they work on the kitchen table and it doesn't work, or they're in an apartment building and nobody else wants to have people tromping through.
That's right.
So we've sort of opened it up for hosting more. So there are probably more, multi-artist venues this year.
I love that collaboration.
Yeah, and there's also 4 artists at the Mountain Art Center in Ben Lomond as well.
And they'll probably be demonstrating ceramics.
Yeah, absolutely. They did last year. I'm assuming they will again this year. And it's given the fact that it's a relatively small area, so the driving is minimal, as I said, and it's a rich experience from the perspective of the variety of things that are being showcased.
Right.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz has just a tremendous art scene.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a number of shows in here with different artists, and the more I'm getting to know the artists of this region, the more they're telling me how extraordinarily special the Santa Cruz region is.
Yeah, and the fact that we always like to throw out is that Santa Cruz is the 5th highest artist per capita city in the country.
You're kidding me.
Which, for the size of Santa Cruz, is pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah. Everybody would think of New York and Santa Fe and all that stuff, and we're number 5, so we have a lot of artists.
A lot of great artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see jewelry here. There's Diane
Painovich.
Right.
Yeah.
And Linda Shoemaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else are you excited about, Raf?
Well,
it's like just
my frustration is that I don't get to see all the artists participating because I'm obviously showcasing my work.
Right.
But it's amazing. Nora Sarkeesian does really interesting work, and it goes.
Can you describe that?
Well, not.
Oh wow! I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
is
there
this
you go.
ceramic?
How would you describe that?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is who was the great animator in Monty Python Terry Gilliam?
Oh yeah.
I think Terry Gilliam would really appreciate this
there you
piece.
go. Yeah.
So is this ceramic? First
Yes.
of all,
Yes.
It's ceramic, and it's very rich and complex, very organic. It looks like a wolf riding on a ship or a vessel, right? It's like a magical being. And then it almost looks like there's a magical tree like up behind the wolf. That is extraordinary.
Yeah, and she'll be actually at Janet Silverglate's.
Well, and I'm looking at Janet's
Janet's
work
got
here.
this amazing garden that she shows off, and she's got this amazing, mixed media work. And her husband Misha does photography, so they have a very artsy garden up there.
Wow.
That's a good place to start.
That alone, right? Art and garden,
Yeah.
right? Janet Silverglate people, great garden, great art. And her work looks, this looks
really
very
interesting.
It's
Right.
really interesting, very sculptural. Here we are trying to describe this on radio.
Yeah,
but so far.
Another wonderful one is April Zilber does fused glass, and the glasswork and has incorporated sound. That's hard to describe, but sound into her glasswork as well. So
she depicts sound, you mean?
Well, no, she actually utilizes sound as part of her demonstration.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Because the glass that she makes is tonal. And so it's real interesting. It's very hard to describe. It's definitely worth seeing.
It's an artistic tour de force here
there you go.
that's on offer. That's April Zilber. Yeah.
And we also have several really good figurative and abstract painters, Ronit Reznicki and Eileen Murray and her son Emerson Murray. There's a bunch of really good painters as well.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing many of them here, and
Ronit's work is really quite extraordinary as well.
As is Dana Wigan.
Can you describe?
Well,
I'm putting you on the wire
you
here,
are.
but I want people to be like salivating. They're like, "Oh, I had plans. I'm canceling those plans. We're going to the San Lorenzo Valley Art Tour."
The best thing to do, to be quite honest with you, is, as they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Go to the website.
Just go to the website and take a look.
Which, once again, is slvarttour.org.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so, I'm seeing Jeff Amon here. He does utensils and bowls.
He and Dana are showing together, so that's a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go to Janet's down in Felton, that's sort of a 4-to-1 neighborhood because Mark Shargell is just a couple blocks away, and Karen Ashera is a couple blocks away. They both do photography, so it's all very, very close in within like South Felton.
Right.
So you can hit that in a couple hours and then start heading north.
Well, and another thing that's really special is that region, you talk about you had this planned in 2020 and we got hit with the pandemic, but then we got hit with the CZU fires, right? And so this is kind of a way to sort of artistically depict new growth, right? Kind of feels that way to me, to bring people into that region that was really hard hit and we almost completely lost, right?
Yeah. Real close.
Right. And there were several artists who lost their studios and homes and who are no longer participating and are not even in the area. So it is unfortunate. But, the people in the valley are pretty resilient.
Yes.
And we're still there.
And one thing I would like to say is that, speaking of disasters, after this last winter, Highway 9 is going to be closed between Santa Cruz and Felton. So if people want to come up, they can come up either Graham Hill Road or come up Highway 17 through Scotts Valley on Mount Herman Road. But the scenic drive up Highway 9 is not available because Caltrans is doing slip out work.
So between Santa Cruz and Felton, Highway 9 is closed. Right. Okay, that is an important thing to
it's closed at Glengarry.
Yeah.
And at that point,
it's a hard closure, so there's no one-way traffic or anything.
Right. Okay. So if you want to come to the San Lorenzo Valley Art Tour, come through Graham Hill Road or
Mount Herman, or over Highway 9 from Saratoga. I mean, if they're coming from over the hill.
There are people who listen over the hill.
Yeah.
And or they can come through Is Bear Creek Road open?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yep.
So there's another one. So there's 4 out of the 5 routes to get into the valley are viable.
All right. So what is your vision for the art tour? Like, it's happening right now, but you're probably thinking ahead to next year. And what is your dream for this art tour?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Nick.
I'm not sure. We were trepidatious to begin with. We weren't sure how many artists we were going to get. And we were very pleased with the number we got the first time, and we're pleased with the number this time. And it's always one of those things where there are a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'd love to. Oh, but I got travel planned." And so we're hoping it'll just grow organically over the next few years and be a viable thing.
How many artists could you reach out to? How many are in your awareness that could be on this tour if they all participated?
Oh, there's several dozen.
I think Eileen's got 125 on her list.
Wow.
Just that reside in the valley.
Yeah.
And this year's group, there's several that are participating for the first time.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the ones that are participating this year are the ones that participated last year. And, we're open to as many who want to participate.
Yeah.
There's no hard fixed number that we cut off. We just open it up to anybody who wants to. People don't have to have their work juried. We rely on the artists to make the decision whether or not they're of the quality that they want to show and can sell. And again, this year we had 31, I believe, chose to participate. It's pretty much, I think, the same number we had last year.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a very workable number.
Yeah. And so do these open studios result in a lot of good sales for artists?
It varies. Some will sell thousands of dollars worth of art. Others, it's not quite as lucrative.
Right.
But, part of it is just sharing your passion.
Right.
And, if we make money, that's fine. But, if I know for myself, if I were to calculate what my hourly rate would be, it's minuscule in terms of how long it takes to produce things.
Yeah.
And there's a process for every art. And if I turn a bowl, for example, that happens to be green wood, I mean, it's not done for at least 5 to 6 months. Because
Can
it has
you say
to go,
a little more about that?
Yeah, it goes through a drying process. So when we get wood, I like to turn wood that's from a freshly felled tree. We make it into rounds. We slap it on the lathe and turn it and cut it into shape. And then approximately after the first turn, I do another turn about 2 weeks later because the wood tends to move and dry, and sometimes in very interesting shapes and unexpected shapes. And then, excuse me, I seal it, let it dry for, it depends on the wood and depends on how wet it is, but generally from 2 to 4 months, 5 months. And then I do a final turn, and then I start to do the finish work. And everything I produce in terms of bowls and so forth is food safe. So, it's everything from salad bowls to vases and platters and so forth. So, and of all different kinds of wood, madrone, cherry, cypress, black acacia. It goes on and on.
Is there a wood that you have like an
My
affinity
favorite?
for?
I love cypress and black acacia.
Okay.
They're beautiful woods. The black acacia is mostly found in the Aptos area. And I have another wood turning friend who calls me after a storm because invariably a tree comes down, and we go out there with our chainsaws and buck it up.
You're like the ants.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, exactly. And we bring it home, and then we work on it.
Wow. So, and Mickey, you work with wood. Is there a wood you have an affinity for?
For me, it's mostly what color the client wants,
Okay.
and then I'll choose it. I mean,
Right.
mahogany is always a really nice wood to work with. Maple's good to work with. And to get back to your question about making money, it sort of depends on the artist. Some make smaller things that they're doing production work that they expect to sell, and some, like myself, I make furniture, so I don't really expect anybody to come and plunk down a bunch of money for furniture, but it's a way to get exposure and have people see what I can do, and then wait for commissions to come in later. So,
Right.
and that's not just me. There's several people like that are doing larger work. So, and the vicissitudes of the economy, people will have a great year one year and a terrible year the next year, and there's no way to predict what people will buy or when.
That's true.
Right.
It depends on how many people show up, and
Yeah.
And so if we ended up with 100 people to 200 people would be wonderful over the weekends, and some weekends we get whether it's been open studios or we both have participated in Dune Art and Bonnie Dune as well as the SLV Art, and it's just depends on the weather sometimes, and what other things are going on that weekend, because there's always something going on in Santa Cruz
There
County.
is always something going on. When it rains, it pours.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah. But I love this sort of sense of, it's like multi-layered, this sharing of passion, this sort of pollinating people's consciousness with the artists that are out there, and how wonderful to have a chance, not just in October, but another chance in the spring and a different time of year to see more, because there's only like so much you can take in, or people don't always have a lot of time in October.
Right.
So it's marvelous to have this second opportunity to just focus on this one area, San Lorenzo Valley. And so in the last few minutes, I'm just feeling really curious. Art is a labor of love, and I imagine this event is too. How much work was this to put together?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
who knows?
I
Well, there's a lot of moving parts.
Each one of us has a different responsibility.
Yeah.
And fortunately, it's you've heard of the proverbial three-legged stool. Well, we're a four-legged stool, and each one of us has a function, and it takes some time.
We start planning in January.
Right.
We start contacting artists in January and get them rolling and get the application out and all that stuff. So it's a good 4 or 5 months worth of work, and we each sort of divvy up the jobs, and we all put in a fair amount of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's time consuming.
Yeah.
But people seem to appreciate it, the participants as well as the visitors. So it's worth it. And we're all of us like to give back to the community, and this is just one way we can do that.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. Listeners, if you feel tantalized by what you're hearing, we've been talking about the San Lorenzo Valley Art Tour. It's their second year. It's going to keep going. And if you want to know more, go to slvarttour.org. And I want to thank Mickey Singer and Raph Strudley for coming in and talking to us on Talk of the Bay about this wonderful event. I hope it's really heartwarming and successful, and And
Thank
I
you.
might
Great.
get that stereo cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Yeah,
Greatly
thank you
appreciate
very
your
much for
time.
having us.
All right.